Welcome to this edition of Judgment Calls. It's definitely not early. It's definitely not Monday, but I'm very fortunate to have with me the dynamic duo, the top twosome, the terrific tandem of Weekend Game Plan on TSN 690, host Matthew Ross, and the inimitable Dave Trentadue, who keeps everything from going off the rails. And listen, guys, Matthew, where are you guys going to be this Saturday, finally?
Well, we'll be in the studio for the first time since April 5th. So it's been a long time off air. Our thanks to our amazing sponsors for getting us back on air. And yeah, we'll be in the studio. Dave was never bothered by any of this in terms of distancing or, I was a bit of a cautious individual with gloves and masks. And actually back then we weren't even doing masks. But spraying everything and all that kind of stuff. But I'll still be cautious, but I assume Dave will be very cavalier and risky.
And is the ping pong table coming? Is the ping pong table coming into play Saturday morning?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't really played much in the last year or so. We have extra responsibilities on the weekend normally there, but we used to have more free time than we do in the mornings. It may return. We'll see. It depends if Dave's a bit of a whiner with contacts, glasses, and all that stuff. So
that's just excuse after excuse. It's the perfect game for social distancing. The table in between us. Let's go, Matt. No more excuses. Let's get a game going.
All right.
And listen, guys, you're going to have no shortage of things to discuss. I mean, we'll touch on it a bit here. Pro sports is all set to kick back in. I mean, MLS is up and running. And the NBA players have arrived in Orlando, and they've got to be locked down in their rooms for 2 days. Can't even go out for food. It's got to be brought in. But, I mean, having those two sports in Florida, that's got to be really tough. You've still got players testing positive. What's it going to look like, these two leagues playing?
Well, I think it's a little too early to know whether the positive tests are an issue. No games are going to begin until July 31st. So even if somebody tests positive today or tomorrow, you get through the 2-week period. And as long as this quote unquote bubble is actually a real thing, and then, the NBA will get going. I like the NHL's chances a little better in Canada. Dave and I talked about this today. You have people waiting on you, they're in the bubble, but maybe their family members work somewhere else, and so these hospitality folks might pass along something down there. So it's going to be risky. I do like the chances of the NBA better than MLS just because of less players involved, right? The NBA's got less players involved, but they also have a lot more resources than MLS and a lot more money invested here. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I did say I didn't think anything would come back for a long time, and I kind of lost some followers because of it. I didn't think it would come back. I still don't think MLB is going to come back. I think NBA's got a decent chance. I think the NHL in Canada is great, but it's really only negating the fact that they have double the players of the NBA, and there's incredible amount of contact. Look, they get staph infections during the year, and that's in the best of times. So it's going to be tough to see everything return to normal.
Yeah, especially if you
feeling.
So I mean, if you look at today, the news is trickling in about the Nashville team in the MLS. They're going to have to withdraw from the tournament already, and nothing really has started yet. And already you have something like that. I mean, it's going to be incredibly difficult. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of important factors here to keep people in the bubble, to make sure they don't sneak out, to make sure that, as Matt said, the people that are allowed in the bubble don't bring stuff from outside of it. It's going to be very difficult. I was, flabbergasted that any sports has started at all, to be quite honest with you. But MLS, I mean, it looks like they're going ahead. The Impact are getting ready to play, and I think that I think we have to look at how important sports is to our society in a time like this. And I think that we're realizing it could be a good distraction if done properly. But whether or not these leagues can pull it off, especially the NHL, which at terms, tends to, be a little bit more difficult. It's going to be difficult, but if they could pull it off, kudos to them.
But as Matthew said, two good choices. for the NHL, going Toronto and Edmonton, and including that families will be taken care of in that bubble. Now, what makes you think, Matthew, that MLB might not return? Is it the fact that they are going to have a schedule where they're traveling to other cities?
Yeah, there's too much travel involved. They're going to expand the rosters as well. It's just a lot of players. Their testing has been a disaster so far. You have a lot of players pulling out. And if you see more and more stars pull out, what are you really left with? So it'll be interesting to see who pulls out next when it comes to MLB as the risk gets bigger. That's really my biggest concern with MLB is there is no bubble. There's a bit of more traveling involved here. The Blue Jays just came to Canada, right? Because they wanted to get the hell out of the U.S. Look, just to give you some context, my sister lives in Miami Beach, and she had some symptoms. She went for a test. They told her she was negative, and then they called her back and said, we mixed up your test with somebody else, and you have to come back in for another test. So it's just insane down there.
And say MLB does come back, guys. 60-game schedule. Could we have the first 400 hitter with an asterisk, I would say, in a while? Maybe, say, a Joey Votto?
Hey, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, look, a condensed schedule favors a lot of things. I mean, I would say it even favors, a team like the Toronto Blue Jays, who usually tend, if you get off to a hot start in a 60-game season, you can really, you can do some real damage. So, I mean, the one thing about the return of baseball, I'll say this, is that I can't see Toronto playing in Toronto and Canada allowing all these players to come in, across the border and come here. And they're, it's not only the players, it's the staff, it's all this stuff that's coming with them. It's just, it's totally crazy. I know they had spoken about doing some stuff in Buffalo, but I mean, going back and forth across the border, just them, including all the visiting teams, is just crazy. But I mean, a 60-game season, we can see a lot of scenarios we haven't seen before. It could be very, very interesting.
You could have the World Series decided for last year's Stanley Cup the way it's scheduled. But for the NHL guys, let's say it gets going, we're going to play. You know the matchups. Who do you like to make it? I won't say win, but who do you like to make it to the final from the East and West? Matthew?
Well, I thought you were going to start with the Canadians series and who handled it there, but yeah, for the East and West, I like the Blues to repeat. I think it's unprecedented to see a Stanley Cup champion have this much rest and come back. And they're going to get Tarasenko back. They didn't even have him most of the year. So I love the St. Louis Blues to repeat. Out of the East, I think it's either Boston or Washington. There's just something about Tampa Bay last year losing to Columbus. I don't really have a ton of faith in them.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page in terms of the West. I think Colorado will be a very interesting team to watch. They'll get a lot of injured players back too as well, just in time. In terms of the East, I mean, I'd like to see Tampa Bay do some damage, but as Matt says, after last year, I'd look for Washington here to do some damage. So, I mean, we could it's very possible we see a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. If not, I would go with Colorado and Tampa.
But touching on the Canadians, though, too, do you think they'll go a little deep into the playoff series? Or have the trades that they've made, the position they're in now with the players they have, that they've got to look to next year already?
No, I think it's going to be farcically quick. The Pittsburgh Penguins, most of that team has been practicing together for a long time already. Carey Price just got to Montreal a few days ago. I mean, you had like Michael McNiven and Charles Hudon on the ice and like one other player. I mean, it was ridiculous. Meanwhile, Sidney Crosby and Malkin and all of these guys coming back from injuries as well, right? With Pittsburgh, guys that were out for quite a while are ready to go, like a Gensel, for example. I think it's going to be an incredibly short series. I think it's going to be an easy sweep. Habs fans will be excited to see like a Kotkaniemi, Bam, et cetera. But I just think you practice together. It's all about chemistry, and Pittsburgh's had it for a long time here in this pandemic.
We're in a different world where a lot of Montreal, more than half, I would say, of the Montreal fan base are hoping for the Habs to lose to get that shot at Lafreniere, right, and that first overall pick. It's going to be an unprecedented time, but there's something to be said about just going out there and playing. And I think that that's what's going to, you know, these playoffs are going to be so different than what we've seen before. It's going to be a lot more different. It's going to be guys just coming along and playing hockey, you know, no fans, no anything, no money. Like, I just think it's going to be so different, and any team can surprise at any point. And I disagree. I think the Canadians do have as good a chance as any to get to the next round. I mean, especially just, you know, you play that quick series, anything can happen.
Excellent. Well, listen, guys, I want to thank you for taking the time for joining me. Usually it's the other way around. I take it you're all set and chomping at the bit to get back behind the microphones this Saturday. My call on this one is everybody tune in to TSN 690, 7 o'clock Saturday and Sunday morning, and enjoy what a lot of people do enjoy, which is weekend game plan. Thank you, guys. Stay healthy. Take care. We'll talk soon.
And
thanks,
thank
Mark.
you. Thank you, Mark, for coming on Saturday mornings.
My pleasure.